Yeah.
Why?
Because
Vampire?
as I'm poor and I'm trying to save on electricity.
I get it. Hey,
They
listen.
don't need to see my apartment. They just need to see me. Oh, we're live.
Oh, sorry. I know you're not a vampire.
I'm not a vampire, but I do like the dark.
Oh my goodness. You're one of those dark side ladies. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Now my light just went out. Okay, let's act like we have some sense.
I know we're just talking, me and Carol, we're talking amongst ourselves, but feel free to say hi to us and let us know that you're here. For those who don't know, my name is Tonya Love, and I work for Carol Fife, who's the Oakland City Council person for District 3. And then who are you, Carol Fife?
I'm Carol Fife, the district council person for District 3.
And we're here live to, well, generally we want to touch base with everyone and just, share our experiences and talk about what's going on in the city council office and get feedback from you. And today, for this chat, we kind of want to talk about, the legislative process and, our experience with it. But before we do that, we also kind of want to do like a city council meeting one-on-one to also give people who aren't familiar, who aren't like wonks like myself, who don't sit down and watch city council meetings every other Tuesday, just to give you an idea of how to follow along and how to engage with our office. And so, but before we do that, Carol, do you want to highlight what's going on in your world this week? What's going on? Who are you? How's your life?
Why would I do that? Why would I ever do that?
You want to share? You had an exciting week this week, did you not?
I did. Okay. I thought you were asking about my personal life. Sure. Yes. It is Black Solidarity Week. So there's a lot happening. What day is it?
Today is Thursday.
Okay. So we did the renaming ceremony. We were able to participate in the process with Frederica Newton, the widow of Dr. Huey P. Newton, the minister of the Black Panther Party, Oakland chapter. So there was a commemorative plaque naming ceremony at 9th and Mandela Parkway in West Oakland. There will be a bust that is created by Dana King that will rest upon a rock at that space in the city. And so that was really powerful because Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. was there, and we're coming off the premiere of the film Judas and the Black Messiah. There were a lot of people that turned out. There were several members of the Black Panther Party that were there. The former chairperson from the Black Panther Party was there. So many community members. It was a moving experience, and I was one of the speakers, and I was able to challenge people to move from commemoration to action, because I think it's important that while we recognize the celebratory things in honor of our freedom fighters, it's important that we continue the legacy through action. So that was really important to me, and something that I think that right now we need to be fighting for more than ever. I was just coming from Chinatown and just looking at the state of the city, and it's just like, this is not okay. It's pretty bad. And we got to do something about it. We're still fighting for the same things that the Panthers were fighting for 60 years ago. So we gotta throw down way harder. And then we had a conversation that same evening with Mama Akua and Jerry, the widow of Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. from the Illinois Black Panther Party, with Frederica Newton and Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. and Turha Ak from the Community Ready Corps. And that was powerful because it was just about revolutionary love and the things that drive people to organize and actually literally put their lives on the line for the people, as Chairman Fred and Minister Huey did. So that was a beautiful event because we got to hear about the other side of these like gigantic figures for our community, and what it was like, what they were like as human beings, and what it means to like love them and still have to give them over to the people. So it was dope. It was dope. And then that was Wednesday. Was that yesterday? Oh, and I don't even remember any day before that. So I know Monday and Tuesday happened, but I don't remember those days. So and there was a second line at Lake Merritt to kick off Black Solidarity Week. There's like gigantic food. There's a gigantic food giveaway going on right now at Grandeur on Grand Avenue. We're going to be doing a bunch of more stuff this week in terms of our council district and how we're bringing people together. So that's it. You should have asked me because, had a lot to say, Tonya. See, I
counted on that, which is why I asked. So thank you for that breakdown.
Yep.
But we also had a lot happening. We also had a city council meeting this week. We also had rules committee this week. And so, which is kind of a great segue into what our main topic of the day is.
Yep.
How people often wonder how to best engage with us when it comes to city council. How can people be more involved in the legislative process, and how can community members, residents comment on items and let you know what they think? And then also, what are some ways that we're looking at and trying to get feedback to us so you can know and you can share your decision-making process. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin with a little bit of kind of, city council one-on-one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen.
Wait, are we doing a city council one-on-one?
No, kind of more of a city council meeting.
Oh, so 101.
101.
Oh, okay. We can do that. Yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to... okay. I just got a pop-up that I just did not understand. So I'm going to share. And I'm going to ask the tech person to share. Yay! Okay, great.
Oh, look at that. See, that's A1 production. Production? I don't know.
So everyone, who all knows when are city council meetings? I do. City council meetings are on 1st, 3rd, and 5th Tuesdays. What happens at city council meetings, Carol?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Oh, like seriously?
Yes.
A bunch of shenanigans. It's a banana republic. It's a kangaroo court. It's where all of the legislative work in the city happens. It's supposed to happen. So.
Yeah. And at full city council meetings, that's when all of the city council gets together and make legislative decisions for the city. So those happen on 1st, 3rd, and 5th Tuesdays. And because we are in a pandemic, prior to 2020, the city council meetings would start around 5 o'clock and they would be in person at City Hall.
And we would go there until 1 a.m.
Right. Now we have city council meetings during the day and they start at 1 o'clock and they happen via Zoom. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. City council committee meetings happen 2nd and 4th Monday or Tuesday, and there's only one a month. What is a city council committee, Carol?
A city council committee is a subject matter committee that focuses on very specific things like public safety, for which Carol Fife is the chair, or life enrichment, or education partnerships, and so on.
So city council committees handle specific subject items, like Carol said. If we want to have an issue, an item talking about the police or the fire department, then it will happen during a public safety meeting. If you're having an item talking about potholes or, streetscaping, then it's most likely going to happen in public works. If you're having an item talking about the development of a building or anything along economic lines, that happen in CED. So these are the committees. What are the committees? Finance Management Committee, Public Works Committee, Community and Economic Development, Life Enrichment, Public Safety, and Rules and Legislation. What is the significance of the purple items, Carol? The items that I have highlighted in purple.
Those are the good ones.
Those are the ones that Carol Fife sits on. And then they're in purple because purple is my favorite color. Right. Okay. So how do we find out if you're a resident? I always say random. Random is like my favorite word. But if you are a resident and you wanted to find out when the next city council meeting, how would you go about doing that? How do you find out when the next city council meeting is and what is on the agenda?
I would go to Twitter and ask Tonya Love or Google it. But we can also share this link with people because that is the official way to find out, which is Legistar.
Right. So I'm going to do what you suggested.
Okay.
So oftentimes, you're not going to remember this link.
Right.
Who does?
It's complicated.
But if you can look at my browser, obviously, I look up Oakland Legistar a lot in Google. So it just pops up automatically. I have not typed anything yet, but apparently I go to Oakland Legistar all the time. But if you were a regular person, if you type in Oakland City Council calendar, this will come up and you click on it, and then it comes up with a list of meetings that the city council engages in. And it starts off with the latest meeting, but this is not the latest meeting. So what happens is that the city clerk will put on the calendar meeting dates as far as maybe a couple of months, right? So what you're going to want to do is you're going to scroll down and look for the date that you're looking for, or the date closest to now. So what is today? Today is February 18th. So today there was a Rules and Legislation Committee meeting. There was also a special meeting that was supposed to happen. If we look over here, there's a cancellation notice, so it did not happen. The next meeting that the city council is going to do is a Community and Economic Development Committee meeting. That's going to happen on February 23rd of next week.
You think this is boring for people yet?
I don't know. Is this boring, everyone? Tell us if it's boring.
I'm sure it's boring, but that's why we love it. So we're here for it.
Excuse me as I toggle through all these different views, but it's confusing. So that's how you find out where the meetings are and when. And then if you scroll over here, you can actually see what is on the agenda for the meetings. So if you click here, you'll get like a brief synopsis of what's going to happen at the meeting, agenda items. Or if you go back and click on the agenda, you can download an agenda and actually see. So I already downloaded an agenda for us to look at.
I just got to say, there's a comment that just came in. Mm-hmm. That said, this is very helpful. I'm a lawyer and have no clue how this works. Laughing my ass off. So that makes me very happy that our 101 is actually helpful to somebody. So.
Right. Okay, good. Because, I can just do this stuff all day long and I can talk to myself. But we wanted to be able to show people how they can find what's happening at Oakland City Council And so these are the steps that you take. You go Google Oakland City Council calendar. The item will come up the top. You click on it, and this is the Legistar website. And you scroll down. You look for the date that you're looking for, basically the date closest to what's happening now, and you can see what meetings are happening at least for the next 2 months. And then you go to meeting details, and you just kind of get a gist of what's happening at the meeting. But if you want a full-fledged agenda, you click on this agenda, right? And just to let me explain this part, you can actually comment on items from here. Did you hear that, Carol?
You don't actually. Is that what that means? E-comment means, what does that mean?
That means that you can comment on agenda items directly from your computer.
That's amazing.
See, look, it pulls up the Community and Economic Committee agenda.
Mm-hmm.
It lists all the different items.
Way too many words.
I know. So this is something I will explain later. But it lists all what's going to be on the agenda. And you have this little button here that allows you to comment.
Oh my God, click on that.
Agenda item. So the item that I clicked on happened to be about the minutes.
I don't know. How do you feel about the minutes, Tonya? Make a comment. Yeah, approve. I approve of the minutes. And to be clear, I want to just say what that means for me as a council member.
Okay.
We go through this at every city council meeting, and approval of the minutes just means that you attest that the clerk has done their job and recorded the minutes. Not necessarily do you agree with what was recorded, do you disagree, but that the clerk did their job. And so great. Yeah, I approve. The clerks are amazing.
That's what I'm going to do. The minutes look great to me. I didn't look at them, but I'm going to assume they look great because the clerk's office is awesome. And so let's just going to assume that. And then I submit comment. Now, normally what's going to happen is they're probably going to ask me to log in. And since I've done this before, and you all know my email address now. Thank God I didn't show the password. But I can sign in. Oh, Lord. It's asking me. But basically, you go through all this to get your comment submitted. I'm not going to do it now because I don't want you guys to know all this stuff. Or maybe, see, I'm not a robot. Let me sign. Oh, no, it's asking all this. It's doing too much. But basically, that's all you need to do to comment on agenda items. Isn't that awesome?
That's awesome.
Okay. I'm going to go back to this presentation real quick.
Cool.
How to engage with the city council on agenda items. So the best way, if you're a novice, right, you don't know what city council meetings are like and you haven't even been to one before, the best way is to really just kind of start off by just watching a city council meeting. Just kind of see what happens at the meeting, see how, you can get like what the different sections are and what it means, and when are they actually discussing legislative items, when is the time where they hear public comment, when does the city council make a decision, and how. It's best to just take the time and watch one.
Yeah.
How do you watch them, Carol?
You can watch them on TV, on KTOP.
KTOP. So for those of you who want to watch them literally on TV, if you have cable, if you have Comcast cable, all you have to do is go to channel 10 at the time the city council meeting is supposed to be. So on first Tuesday or third Tuesday, like for February, or whatever Tuesday, at 1:00, go to channel 10 and the city council meeting will be live so you can see. If you have AT&T Uverse, you go to channel 99 and KTOP will be there. So that's one way. Or you can watch it online by clicking on this link. I'm just going to copy and paste it. And you can watch in that way.
Boom.
Boom. And then if you click view, what will happen is this lovely little screen will pop up. Nothing's happening now. There's no city council meeting now. But basically, a city council meeting will show up here. And they even put the agenda right here so you can see what the agenda item is. And if you come in late, if you look here, you'll see what the current item is. So you know what they're talking about at the time.
It sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot when you're saying it right now. That's why people just need to do it.
Mm-hmm. You just kind of need to do it, and you kind of need to explore it and just get a feel of what it's like. Right? Yep. Or the third option is you can watch via Zoom.
Yep.
And how to join via Zoom is found on the agenda of each meeting.
It's right there in the link.
Right there.
Well, that's okay.
So here's, I'm going to pull up an agenda.
To the top, scroll to the top.
Scroll to the top. Here's an agenda for last week's meeting. And go here and they explain public participation. What do you need to do? If you wanted to observe, it shows all this information that I just put in this slide. Watch on Xfinity, Comcast, or AT&T, Channel 99, just like I explained, or KTOP. Or you can watch via Zoom. It even shows you, the, the Legistar calendar, which I talked to you guys about, where you can find the agenda. And to observe by Zoom, it gives you the link. So you open up your Zoom and you type in this link and you get to join. Or you can just call in and listen. Those of you who are familiar with Zoom, you know what all this is about. But that's how you can join the actual meeting via Zoom yourself. And it's on every agenda. So if in case you forget, just be like, oh, I want to attend this meeting. I'm going to go to the calendar. I'm going to download the agenda. And all these instructions are going to tell me how I can participate via observation. They also tell you information on how you can comment. You can do the e-comment, which is just what I just showed you guys how to do previously. Or you can comment while you're in the Zoom meeting. And you do that by raising your hand. And the city clerk will call your name or your phone number if you just called in and say, hey, Tonya Love, it's your turn to speak. Unmute yourself. And then I go and speak. And I say, the city clerk is awesome. Yay. And then.
But you know what, Tonya? I think it's really important to mention, and I think people should see this. If you hover over the Zoom link, you should be able to click on it because it's a hyperlink. And I don't know if you can do that in your, but when you open, if you have the agenda open, you can just click on it. Yeah, and it'll take you right to the Zoom.
Yep. There you go. I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah, don't do that right.
That's amazing. Thank you, Carol, for pointing that out. That was really useful.
It's the same with the attachments for the reports.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on them in the agenda, these are hyperlinked. You can see that they're blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it should be able to take you right to the downloads.
Right.
I don't know what's happening with your cursor right now.
You're not happy? What's going on?
Does it work if you click on the reports?
Yes, but I don't want to do it right now.
Okay.
But see, that's what it's going to take me. And then I click on this and then the report would download.
Yep. Right from the agenda. You're welcome. Right from
the agenda. Like you don't have to go to another website or anything. They hyperlink all of this stuff for you. It's amazing. Yeah. Okay. So before I go even further, to engage with city council on agenda items. Let's say you've gone through this agenda and you've seen an item that's important to you. Let's say honoring at the last meeting, they did something. They honored an executive director of Oakland Parks and Recreation. And let's just say Ken Lupoff is your best friend. You love him and you want to tell the city council how you feel about him. What's the best way to do that?
There's a few ways you can do that, but email is one.
Right. So what you can do, if you want to write to all the city council members, you just use this email address, council@oaklandca.gov, and your email will come to all the city council members and their staff. And so we'll be able to see it. If you also want to reach just your city council person individually, you can write to them as well. And for Carroll 5, you want to write District 3 at Oakland. I can't spell CA.gov.
Good
and
job.
then just go to her. And the same for all the other council districts. If you want to reach Council Member Cal, who's in District 1, you do District 1 at oaklandca.gov. And
bye,
so,
Sala. I just have to say bye, Sala from Chicago.
huh?
I want to say bye to Sala because they have to leave.
Oh, okay. Another way that you can engage on city council items is by actually paying attention to Council Member 5 newsletters. And you can reach her, you can sign up for her newsletter by going to carroll5.org. Should I show them how to do that, Carol?
Please do.
Let's go to carroll5.org. All the scrolling, you have to scroll down. Sorry, my computer's doing a lot. I'm on live stream. Look, it says sign up for our newsletter. Type in your name and your last name and your email address, and then you get to be on our newsletter. So pay attention to Carroll 5's newsletter and pay attention to live streams like this one. And soon we're going to start asking you questions and sending out surveys, asking for your opinions on certain items. And you can engage with us through that way. Our next live stream will actually be on the city budget. Isn't that exciting?
Lord, definitely want to hear from my constituents on budget priorities. I was having a conversation with some folks today, and there's a lot that we need to focus on. So we need to get some consensus from District 3 members about, what do you think we need to be spending the budget on? And inside of this budget crisis where we have less revenue than we have had in the past, what are the most important concerns? So we're going to send out a survey. We want you all to participate because it's going to be important to hear from you because we want this to be a participatory process. So you'll be seeing that soon.
So before I do the next thing, are there any questions that people have submitted? Feel free to type in your questions and we can try to do our best to answer. And since I'm not looking, I'm looking at my screen, Carol, if you see questions come up, please say, oh, Tonya, someone has a question. Okay? Because I can't see.
Got it.
All right. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to briefly go over city council agenda so you can understand what happens. So when the city council meeting first begins, what they do is they do a roll call. And so they ask, who's present? And they list the names of all the city council members to see who is present. And they do it by alphabetical order. So if you see Carroll 5 always listed first, don't be salty or upset. It's because her name is F and she starts at the beginning.
Yeah.
And also because she's important. No, just kidding. So then what happens is they'll ask for public comment. So this is what's called the open forum. And during open forum, members of the community can comment on anything that's not on the current city council agenda, right? So you may notice that there's a lot of items on the city council agenda, but there may not be an item that's important to you. Maybe you want to talk about, Lake Merritt vendors. Lake Merritt vendors are not on this agenda for today. So what you would do is you would sign up to speak during open forum, and then you make your comment about Lake Merritt vendors there. Or anything that's, tickles your fancy. After that, so what happens is that what will happen is the council president will say, we're now going to do open forum. You have until, let's say, 7:01 to raise your hand, and then you will be listed by order of when you raised your hand, and the city clerk will say your name and give you maybe 2 minutes to speak. And then after that, then they will move on to the next item. Now, if a lot of people has signed up to speak, to raise their hand before the deadline of 7:01, that means we can have 50 people, we can have 5 people, we can have 10 people, we can have 50 people who have raised their hand, but all of the comments will be heard up until that time where you had to raise your hand. So you have to be quick on the uptake, people. Don't sleep.
I think it's important to restate, Tonya, because if the meeting starts at 1:30, as soon as they open the virtual doors, people start raising their hands to get in the queue for public comment. And then the chair of the meeting is like, I'm gonna give y'all 60 seconds and then I'm gonna turn off the queue, so we'll not be taking any more hands. Right. So it's important that when you get to the meeting, you raise your hand, you click on that little button in the raise hand feature and say, I want to speak, because they don't offer a lot of time to be able to do that. It's not like in person where people could be turning in speaker cards for a minute. So just really pay attention to that if you're coming to a city council meeting for a purpose and you want to have your voice heard.
But that's before the meeting. If you don't make it to that first round of being able to speak, you can speak again, but not until the end of the meeting. So your comment will still be taken, but it may not have as much impact if, you're commenting on something that may be discussed soon.
So no more speaker cards. It's just a raise your hand feature.
Right. And you just speak. Okay. So after any questions on that, Carol? Can I move on?
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. So then what they do is we go over what's called the consent calendar items. Carol, you want to talk about what the consent calendar is?
Yes. The consent calendar are all of the items that come first in the city council agenda that are supposed to be non-controversial. They're supposed to be the items that the city council can just approve without deliberation, because they're pretty simple and it doesn't take a lot of conversation that everybody pretty much agrees on. But if you've been watching the city council meetings, you'll see that I have been like, why is this on consent? Why are we automatically approving this without discussion? Who, like, why, when? No. So,
so to backtrack, all items where the council will generally say yes to are put under one specific heading called the consent calendar. And then they all have like the same number, so like 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, because they're all under item number 2. And you often will see the same 3 items up first, because for some reason they're always listed under the consent calendar. And every meeting, we all agree that right now we're under declaration of local emergency due to the AIDS epidemic. I think that's been going for years. Declaration of medical cannabis health emergency, and so on. So those 3 items are always going to be in the consent calendar until someone removes them.
Until it's not an emergency anymore.
Yeah. And then they'll go over new consent calendar items, like the honoring of the Oakland Parks and Rec person. Or now we have here a local tax software solution, or here the Mosswood Park master plan. These 2 items are seen to be, or thought to be, something that all the city council members would agree to. There's no need for further discussion. They're just going to say yes. But Carol, did you agree to this item?
I didn't. No, I actually had them pull that from consent because I wanted more information.
You wanted more information. So when you see Carol saying, I want to pull this from consent, or any council person, that means that they do not agree. They don't automatically agree that this is something should be done. And so what they'll do is they'll pull it to the non-consent agenda. So what is non-consent agenda items, Carol?
Those are the issues and items that we need to discuss because they are not just simple issues that we can just approve. There needs to be public deliberation. It needs to, well, I honestly believe a lot more needs public deliberation, but these are the things that we need to weigh in on and get information from our city staff and hear from the public about.
All right. So I'll show you where those items are found. After they do the consent calendar, these two items will say, okay, well, if we need to have a public hearing about a special item, they'll put them here. And a public hearing means that it's a specific item that needs to have real public review and it needs to have a special designation. And I can't tell you more about that right now because I'm going to be honest, folks. I'm learning as we go, and so sometimes I just don't know everything, and so I'm going to find out. And then when we do, we'll share it with you.
And we do have a question because no one expects us to know everything, and people who say they do are lying. I hope I'm saying this right. It's Flanagan can ask the question: who adds items to the agenda? Can city departments add them directly? Yes. So that's the second part of the question. Can city departments add them to the agenda directly? Yes, they have to go through rules or an issue specific committee. But yes, city departments can add them, and so can other council members. So can the public.
Ooh, yes.
So that's how items get on the agenda.
So if you're ever wondering how items are scheduled on the agenda, that happens during Rules Committee. And Rules Committee happens every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. And so when those meetings are actually just to schedule new items to city council or to different committees.
And there is a very special guest on the line that has added a comment. I want to read this from former council member Nancy Nadell, who was the council member for the district where I'm seated. And she is saying items are heard in committee and most will next go to council. The clerk is supposed to ask the chair of the committee whether each item should go to the consent calendar for discussion. That is a time for other non-chair council members to say, no, that shouldn't go to consent.
Right. So I'm going to actually do a little bit something weird. So what happens is you're going to introduce legislation or maybe ask for a report. What happens is that new idea for legislation or information goes to Rules Committee. And then during Rules Committee, during Rules Committee, the members decide, okay, so where does this piece of legislative item go? Should it go to full council or should it go to committee? Or should it just, or should we decide on it here if it's a piece of legislation, right? Like state legislation. So Rules Committee decides what kind of state or federal legislation that the city council will endorse. So that's the only thing that Rules Committee does as far as making legislative decisions. Otherwise, they are scheduling items. So once they make the decision on whether or not it goes to city council or to committee, what should happen is it should go to a committee for discussion. So let's say I want to do an item where we're taxing people on mattresses that are left on the street. Mm-hmm. Carol, what kind of committee, where do you think that item should go to? If I wanted to start taxing people about mattresses, what should happen to that? Where should that be heard?
Taxes, probably finance.
Okay, so the Rules Committee will then send this item to Finance Committee. From there, let's say at the Finance Committee, the staff will give a report on the efficacy of taxing people on mattresses. And they give a recommendation saying, yes, we should tax people $100 per mattress. And they've gone through the pros and the cons. The people the public can go to this meeting and say, you know what? I think it's a great idea to tax people for mattresses. You know, those pro-tax folks are going to be all up on it. But then you might have some other people who be like, no, $100 is too much. How we're going to identify the people. All of these pros and cons are weighed in the finance committee. And the finance committee is like, I think we should go ahead and tax it, but we can't make this decision on our own. We have to have the full council weigh in. So what the finance committee does is say, they'll vote, and then they can recommend that it go to full council. Does it go directly to full council from there, Carol?
Well, after it's heard in the subject matter committee and it's pushed out of the subject matter committee, it will go to the full council for its necessary read and approval by the majority of the members of the body.
Council. And then at that, the full council makes a decision on whether to pass or not pass. And the committee can say whether it should go to consent or if it should go to non-consent. Right? And then so on. Any questions on that, Carol? Did we get any questions? Because I want to kind of.
No question.
Nope. Okay. So after that, they approve the minutes, or there may be some other reports that goes on item number 4. Then item number 5, they approve the minutes. And then after that is where the non-consent calendar items. So all those pieces of legislation that have their own number are non-consent. So reimagining public safety task force update was item 6. Local business empowerment through contracting was number 7, 8, so on.
And you can see in these agenda items who is bringing them. Like item 10, the Oakland Police Department brought that item to be discussed. So you can see where these items are actually coming from right on the agenda.
And you can kind of see the legislative history. So it says this item went to Rules and Legislation Committee in January 7th, and then and then it went to the full council on January 19th. And then something happened to it and it languished until it came today. And now it's being read, and now it was, heard on February 16th.
Yeah, I don't think I voted to support that.
I don't think you did either. I think I remember that. I think the clerk was like, come again? And you were like, no. That was interesting.
I did. I got no.
No. So that's how an agenda looks like. I want to briefly go over the committee hearing agenda. This is actually happening on Tuesday, you guys, at 1 p.m. January 26th. The Special Community and Economic Development Committee is having a meeting, and again, shows you all the information on how to participate, how to observe, how to comment. And then it goes to roll call, and then it goes to the public comment, and these are the items. Because we're in a special pandemic, because we're in a pandemic, there are only 1 or 2 items in each committee hearing. And so that way that committee hearing will discuss the item in full for a long time, or however long is needed, in order to get the committee to decide whether or not it should move on to full council. I think this was for January 26th. I'm sorry, you guys. This is the wrong date. Let's look up what's going to be on the next CED committee meeting. I think my computer's freaking out.
Oh no, what's happening?
You can hear me, right? It's just acting really slow. Maybe it won't let me do that. Maybe we
That's
have to. Yeah.
That's okay. Let's look at one of the agendas that we can look at, the one from January 26th, because we just want to show people our process. So it's fine if we use an old one.
Okay. So what is our process, Carol?
So when an agenda is coming up, when a meeting is coming up, I should say, then we pull up the agenda and then we talk it through. We go through every item. We go through Shibuya roll call and say, yes, we're going to be there, and say present. We go through all of the items and then we reread them. We read the subject, who it's from, the title, and then we look at the reports, especially for me, because a lot of these things were done before I actually got to council. So even things on the consent calendar and other items were halfway decided. And, so I got to go back and scrutinize to see, did something get through that maybe shouldn't have gotten through? So I work with my team and we go through each agenda item and say, hey, what would our constituents say? Sometimes y'all know I call y'all, or I'll be tweeting, which Tonya told me to stop doing.
No.
But I try to get feedback from people like, hey, does this make sense to y'all? Or what do y'all want to do around this issue? And then because we've been in so many conversations with the constituents, I have an idea, and I listen to my values about why people elected me. And then that's how I make the decision about what to support. Sometimes I will get texts during a meeting from constituents like, we weren't consulted about this particular issue, or we have issues with this issue, or I totally love that you're supporting this. So, or that you should support it. So those are the kind of things that we take into account when we're going through these agendas. So it's not, even though I might have an opinion, I try to do as much as I can based on what I know of the district and what people want to see.
But sometimes, you don't know, you don't have all the information you need.
Right.
So that's when you start asking questions. So the last couple of meetings, you guys, an audience, might have noticed that Carol is asking a lot of questions. She'll ask questions of the city administrator. She'll ask questions of the author, just so she can get a better understanding of what's happening. And sometimes she's asking questions because she also wants you as an audience member to also understand what is going on. The one, the difference is that what Carol and I would like to do is to be as transparent as possible and share with you what's happening. And sometimes, that doesn't happen in a normal course of city council business. So a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes, but we also want you guys to be able to understand what's happening. So that way you get a full picture of what's going on and you're not guessing.
Yeah. And I think now that we're having this 101 about how we approach council agendas and how we want to involve community, I think after the budget conversation, we just need to have one of these forums where we just hear from people, where we don't talk so much. We actually just listen to people, because we got another really good comment from Council Member Nadell that says, here's a tip for Carol. I love tips, by the way. When you want something passed that requires action by the staff to get implemented, staff will likely balk and instead send you an informational report. They'll put, you want to get something done, but the staff will be like, oh, I don't want to do that. So let's just give them an informational report. And that way they will delay the action that council member Fife will want to take. So, right? Isn't that some tea? Get them, Nancy. So when you make a motion to take action, the city attorney will jump in and say, you can't take action because it wasn't an action report, because they gave you an informational report. So therefore, when you want something to come to council that you want to take action on, make sure your rules request is for an action report, not an informational report. Dropping them. Thank you, Nancy Nadell.
Right. So I just wanted to actually talk about a little bit about our experience. So, as you guys know, we've only been in office for a month and a half or so, maybe almost, a month and a half.
6 weeks, yeah.
6 weeks. And while we are coming in, we're having to learn how the city works as far as what's it like, what does it mean to be an employee? What's our employee number? What's our, benefits package? What, when do we get keys to the office, or what's our fax number? All that good stuff.
Where's the letterhead? Can I write letters to people? I don't know.
Right.
Things like that.
Do we get keys and all this stuff? We're navigating this part. We're also learning the legislative process. We're learning like how do we submit a resolution, or how do we submit an information report, all this good stuff. We're also learning about what city departments are and what they do and what they're in control of and all this good stuff. We're learning all of this at the same time as Carroll is having to go to a city council meeting and make important decisions. So that's happening, and it's a lot, and it's interesting and difficult to navigate. So I sometimes feel like we, as a news team, are at a disadvantage, because even though wonky Tanya watches city council meetings, that doesn't mean she knows everything that's going on in the background. So she's still learning. Carol's learning. All the staff are learning. And so we aren't necessarily up to speed as maybe some other council member staff are.
And I don't know. We're coming into this office new, right? But we've been around these politics for a long, long time. You've been reading about city council meetings for a long time. You've worked in the office of the assembly member. So even though we don't know how the sausage is made, and we're learning a lot about the processes, and things aren't necessarily moving as smoothly for us as we would like them to, I still believe that we're coming in with a level of understanding of the processes more than like someone who's never been to city council meetings at all and never followed the processes at all. I've been a part of working with the budgets with other city council members for at least the last 4 budget cycles. Well, maybe three budget cycles. We've worked on drafting resolutions around emergency moratoriums and other things even before we got to city council. So even though we don't know a lot of things and they might be throwing us some curveballs, it is a lot, I think we're better positioned than a lot of people coming in who have no experience at all. And so I think you're right, Tanya. Things are really hard. And I keep saying that we're drinking from a fire hose, because we are. And it's not just all of the city council meetings and all the committee meetings and all of the neighborhood meetings and all of the emails, which please send emails to Tanya if you want to get in touch with me. It's just like,
don't send them to Carol. Don't send them to Carol. Send them to me.
Send them to Tanya, because I still have external committees. People don't know about ABAG, and I don't even know the other things. There's all of these committees to attend, all of these community events to attend. And then people are like, there are people who didn't vote for me, who are sending me emails like, I sent you an email and I'm trying to get a new roller skating rink built in the district and you have not replied to me yet. And it's like, okay, slow down. A lot of people have their personal projects and want me to wave a wand and solve all of the things and want Tanya to jump through all kinds of hoops, but we can't do everything. And what we're going to do right now is get really, really strong on the process. But I do want to say that it is the support of the folks who did put us in office and do respect what we do, and including all of the responsibilities that we have to attend to, that makes this encouraging. And so I want to say, Tanya, because you have a lot on your plate. You're my clone, and I wanted to just appreciate you for handling with such grace, because it is a lot. It's a lot on you. It's a lot on me. It's a lot on our colleagues that are trying to really move progressive change in the city. And you know, we're getting some curveballs, but you are handling it so well. And so for anybody who has something to say about how Tonya or Carol or Justin or Red is handling D3 issues, I will fight you. I said I don't fight people, I fight systems, but I do fight for my folks. I left that out of my tweet. I fight for my people. So come at her if you want to. And some of y'all know who I'm talking to. I'll come to your house.
My only other comment would be to say is, again, just have some patience with us, you guys. Where other city council members know exactly what to do and how to do it and when. Those city council members have been in office for at least 2 years, and we've only been in office for 6 weeks. So be patient with us.
Throwing down in 6 weeks.
Yes.
The whole climate has changed. Act like it hasn't. Say it hasn't changed. Things are changing.
Climate change, that's not real. But
we have a climate change denier online with us today.
Change is not real. Everything stays the same, and everything is always easy and all of that. But anyway, what I want to say is I want to thank everyone who's been supportive of us and who's been patient with us, and continue to be patient. And we're going to continue to work as diligently as we can for you. And we love and appreciate all of you. And thank you for tuning in and staying with us thus far. But we've got a long 4 years, you guys. So stay with us. We need your continued support. So right now, we want to introduce another critical staff member on our team, Justin Tombolesi. Yay, Justin. What's going on in your world? How's your life going?
Oh, it's going great. But you all look like you're having a blast over here. So, I just came knocking, and they made me stay in the backstage, and I just had to argue to get in here. So I'm really happy to be in here with you all.
Dang.
Yeah, they tried to keep me out, but I'm here. And about beating people up, Carol, I'm making a list right now. So I'll have to send that to you soon.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Can I give a quick story about Justin right quick that I want the whole world to know?
Yes.
When organizing is so critical, it teaches people how to take their own power and amplify it to create the change that they want to see in the world. And at my day job, I still am a director of an organization that builds up organizers, that creates organizers. And Justin was there when I got there. And one of the first fights we were in together was around an elderly Black couple who was at risk of eviction, and they eventually did lose their house. And I don't want to get Justin, he doesn't work there anymore. But so I can say this, that when they needed some place to stay, Justin went and got them a hotel and paid for that. And why that was critical for me is that, like, those folks look like my grandparents, and they did not have the money to be able to afford a place to stay. So not only were we fighting to find them full-time residence, Justin took on the responsibility at making very little pay, because we don't make a lot as organizers. We don't make a lot of city folks either, but I was like, damn, this dude is paying out of his pocket. And he was like, don't worry about it. I'm like, dude. And I was like, man, I'm gonna come out of my pocket too. So it was that experience that I was like, he cares about what he does, and he cares about the community. So I just wanted to share that, because that is one of the things that made me be like, yeah, he's a real dude. So I just want to share that.
That's so sweet.
Thanks, Carol. Thank you, Carol. I'll just say that I literally would never be the organizer that I am, and be proud of some of the work I'd done if Carol didn't really push me in so many ways when I worked with her at ACE. And every time I felt like I was doing a lot, I looked at Carol and I was like, oh man, I'm not doing anything. I gotta up my game here. So thanks for those words, Carol. It's always a pleasure working with you. Learning from you too.
This is awesome. I didn't know this was going to turn into a love fest, but I do love my
So Justin, tell us how, if a constituent has a concern, what's the best way to...
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. So constituent services. So, hey everyone, if you don't know me, my name is Justin. I'm the community liaison for Carroll now, in her office. And what I've been doing is really just working with different community groups and individual residents who've been reaching out to us and trying to help people organize around the issues that we're all facing in the district, and to find the actual pressure points or people that we really need to go after in the system, right, in the city, to actually like get material outcomes that we want, that we need, that everyone wants and needs. Because as we know, system's not working for people. It hasn't worked for people. And only organizing collectively can really make these changes. So I guess that's my long way of saying that. I guess it's more, I like to see my role as more providing organizing advice to people, and using our kind of unique position within the city to get sort of new information, new intel to share so people can, be more effective. So it's all about organizing. If you want anything done in the city, organize, right? Like fight, like if it's a broken light on your street, if it's some trash dumped on the corner, that's really an opportunity, at least when I'm working with residents, to, speak with your neighbors, to like connect with your neighbors, to connect with people, around you that you may have not before, and to really start to like build these networks and bonds that, hopefully we start by just, actually getting that trash picked up or that light fixed, but really, we really see ourselves as helping the whole community come together into one big network to really take on the bigger challenges that we've been talking a lot about. Like, some of us think it's climate change. Maybe some of us don't, but some of us, something like that, right? So, I guess I should just talk about our role as staff versus the community. We're staff here, and, we have legal restrictions, right? Based on some an established sort of framework of laws that don't allow us as staff people to actually tell other staff in the city what we need or what to do necessarily, right? We have to frame things as questions and ask people, what's the policy on this? Or how can this happen? Not necessarily, can you please do this because a resident has asked for this issue to be addressed, right? It's a kind of fine line we really have to walk based on certain laws, like the Brown Act, Sunshine Ordinance, which are supposed to be about like public access to decision makings of elected officials or public officials, but has kind of created other restrictions for us. But that doesn't mean you can't demand things. You can't tell staff what to do, and by all means do that. Please do that. So we really want you to do that.
So Justin,
yeah.
If I see, like, I live on a street that's pretty busy, and folks are just speeding down the street all the time, and it just bothers me, and I know that it's dangerous and I need to do something about it. Can I email you and say, hey, Justin, I need you to, slow down the traffic on my street. Do it now. Or what? How does that get solved?
Or even like, why hasn't Carroll stopped speeding on my street yet, Justin? Tell her to go do
this. Yeah, so that's, you see, basically, there's a lot of infrastructure in the city of Oakland, right? Like that exists, right? And it's been segmented and managed by so many different departments within the city, right? And we, are coming at this as the council. We're coming at it from the council as like a separate institution within that bigger body. The democratic and elected part, right? But then there's the rest of it that's this structure, this public institution that has its own staff within each segment that's managing different delegated parts. And it can be very confusing. And we can go over kind of in a little bit what departments manage what. But when it comes to something like, what y'all are bringing up, that would be the Department of Transportation when it comes to fast cars or speeding or dangers such as that. They are the people who oversee everything related to streets. Right. So the literal street, right? Like potholes, like, any sort of street calming, like speed bumps, that's bike lanes, things like that, right? So that's the Department of Transportation. So what you'd want to do is first, as with any issue, you're going to want to fill out a form under the 311 program, either call 311 or fill out a form. We can put that in the comments or chat or however this works. And that's the first step, is you want to really put your issue down in a form so it can be documented within the system. 311 is basically like a call center that supposed to coordinate amongst residents and their issues and all departments in the city, or most departments in the city, especially around infrastructure. So you need to really file that 311 first. If you see, that car speeding, and I need a speed bump, put a 311 file, get a file number so you can track the progress of of that particular speed bump you want and where it's at, what the Department of Transportation is doing. And once you do that, and you don't think a lot is happening or it's taking a long time, you really got to start to contact the heads of the Department of Transportation. I'm not gonna lie, there's some residents who are modeling this for us. Like you all were saying, we're learning a lot still, but there's some residents who have organized themselves on Wood Street over here. And today they actually did a massive email blast on Ryan Russo, who's the head of the Department of Transportation. So about a dozen emails have been sent to him with a petition stating that they've been asking for speed bumps on the street for quite a while. And so that's going to bump them up, most likely, or at least that's going to bring put a lot more resources and energy into resolving that issue. So some things like that, right? Once again, if you see that car speeding on your street, maybe you want to talk to your neighbors about, hey, have you noticed all this speeding going on? Should we do something? Do you think we deserve street calming measures like other folks in the hills have, right? They don't have to deal with this. And start to really build relationships, build that group together. Once you do that 311 and you don't think anything's happening, then you can get that group together like the people on Wood Street did and start to, put a little more pressure on them to get it done.
So step 1 is I identify a problem. Step 2, I go to my neighbors and say, hey, do you agree that this is a problem? And they're all like, yes. And then step 3, I go to 311 and I submit my complaint. And hopefully, fingers crossed, 311 and the city of Oakland will address the issue. But if it's been a month and 2 months or 3 months later and still we heard nothing, what do we do then? Do we go to you, Justin?
Definitely reach out to me. Yeah. Through this whole process, reach out to me. Have me there. CC me. I want to keep tabs on what's going on as we're building out a lot of our organization, from the campaign and whatnot. We really want to kind of bring everyone together into a larger, organization and network. So we want neighbors organized for the long term. But if it's about your individual issue and getting that resolved immediately, I want to be there to support you all when you all decide to take your next step and go to the higher ups.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Justin. That was really helpful. And for those of you who don't know how to reach Justin, we have his email address listed here. Justin is also going to be going to a lot of neighborhood meetings and letting his presence known so you guys can get to know him. So make sure that if you aren't, learn what your neighborhood council is and go to those meetings and get to know Justin and get to know your neighbors and see how your neighbors are organizing around issues. Finally, we have one final guest. Thanks, Justin. I didn't mean to be like, oh, well, that's it. Bye, Justin. Justin. We have one final guest. We have our volunteer coordinator, Katie. Katie, what's the word?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right on. I just finished a dinner of Brussels sprouts. I thought of you, Tonya. Mm-hmm. I know. They were a little too salty, Carol. Yeah, I forgot you don't like Brussels sprouts, Carol. I'm sorry. I am team Brussels sprouts on this one.
I don't dislike them. I just don't have this thing that Tonya has going on with them. I think that's abnormal.
You mean a normal love for vegetables that are good and good for you?
She dressed up as a Brussels sprout for Halloween.
Anyway, Katie, what's going on?
My recollection is that she was pretty dang close to winning that costume contest as well.
It was fly. She looked fly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, conversation for later, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm Katie. I am coming here to talk about volunteering and ways that folks can stay engaged in the organizing efforts that have grown out of your movement campaign. So just a couple of things. One is right now, our volunteer leads are calling back through the volunteer list from the campaign. It's taken us a little bit of time because you had so many volunteers. So there are 800 people to call. So we're calling every single person. So if you were a volunteer on the campaign and you get a call from a number you don't recognize, it could be us. So please answer or respond to our text. We won't leave you voicemails because who listens to those anymore? And then once we have contacted all the volunteers, we're going to start phone banking to all the D3 residents in next month, likely. And we're going to be doing the budget survey you mentioned earlier, Carol, with folks on the phone. We're also aiming to get back out on the doors and do that neighborhood-based organizing that Justin was talking about, but we'll do it on the phones until it's COVID safe to go back out on the doors. So if folks want to get engaged in any of that, they can sign up to volunteer on the website, same place as the campaign, carrollfife.org/volunteer. And then another thing that we're doing, another ask that we have is that we need funds in order to continue this organizing. There's databases that we gotta pay money to, phone banking systems, door knocking systems, ultimately with the goal, right, of having stipends for organizers to really hold down this work. This is all grassroots. This is not city run. Carroll is leading it, but it is not run from the city. So if you can, please donate to carrollfife.org/donate. And the money is going to your office holder account and is bound by the same laws as a campaign donation. If you donated to the campaign last year, though, you're starting back at zero, so you can donate as much as you want, up to $900 this year. I think that's it.
Katie,
You're welcome.
you're awesome.
So are y'all.
Thanks. All right. So that is it for our live stream for today. Carol, do you have any final thoughts, comments, critiques, questions, words of wisdom?
Well, I wish I had those things. I will say on a more serious note, although this legislative process is serious, but it can be like mind numbing just going through just like fact by fact by fact. We try to make it a little lighter for people to just stay tuned in, but I do want to say that the situation that we're experiencing in terms of safety in the city is not necessarily going to get better overnight. And if people didn't know, there was a shooting in Chinatown by a merchant who either shot up in the air or shot at someone who attempted to steal something from a store. And that's important because there's a lot that needs to happen to ensure safety, and not just people's physical safety in their homes and in their stores, but just in the community in general. And this Saturday, a group of folks are participating in Black Solidarity Week in a caravan for peace. So it's all Black. It's a lot of our churches, a lot of our Black community organizations that are coming together at 1 p.m. and congregating at DeFermery Park to do a caravan just for visibility, calling for peace. A lot of neighborhoods, specifically in the flatlands of East and West Oakland, feel that their communities have been under siege and experiencing myriad forms of violence in terms of disinvestment in our public infrastructure, in education, and lack of access to jobs and affordable housing. And so, you know, folks are coming together at 1 p.m. at Defirmary this Sunday. Did I say Saturday? This
You
Sunday.
Saturday, Sunday. Yeah.
Sunday after church to just be together to speak with each other, and then just caravan through Chinatown and the ending location I will not disclose, but to be together and push for that solidarity and unity, and to just, you know, show what we mean when we talk about Black solidarity and just being there for each other. So want to put that out. There'll be more information on social media. I might do another e-blast about it, but I wanted to say that because we're here for each other. We're all we got, and we can't wait for Superman to come and save us. So we got to create the systems that we need for our neighborhoods, for our communities. And just want to share that announcement with people.
Thank you. I hope everyone can join.
Me too.
All right. So with that, if there aren't any other questions, we're going to end early.
Yeah. I'm going to go give away some gift cards.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We really appreciate you.
Bye.
Engage with us. We love you all and hope you have a safe, wonderful week.
Bye, everybody.